going on, you bunch of heathens? Today we are checking out Battle of Verdun. I'm pretty sure this has gotten recommended to me a whole bunch. I do not remember your name. I am sorry, but here we are. This and these history sections are linked below. Go check them out. And without further ado, let's jump in. Ooh, hell of an intro.
As the drum roll started on that day, like 100 miles away, a million shells were fired, and the green fields turned to gray.
Oh, dude, I'm loving it already. Like, that is such a great intro. It's such like a classic, I mean, I don't know, punk rock song, I guess? Sounds good, though. Ooh. Oh, I'm adding this. This sounds amazing. Damn! Fuck! God, this is a good song. I love it. Ooh, the flamethrower.
Turn to wasteland from the grass. Thou shalt go no further. It was said they shall not pass.
Hey! Wait. That's got to be a Tolkien reference, right? Tolkien was in... Not what I meant to do. Tolkien was in Verdun, right? Was he in Verdun? No, he was in the Somme. On ne passe pas, and they shall not pass. Oh, it became a well-known slogan among Allied soldiers, which is why he would know it, and why, more than likely, it inspired Gandalf's line. That's dope as shit. Oh, what? Hold up, I gotta go back. That was a dope shit. That's dope as shit. I love how they put awesome solo on it. And yeah, this is an awesome fucking solo. One of my favorite solos, I think. Oh, this is a dark fucking music video, by the way. Battle of Verdun lasted 303 days. Longest active battle in history. One of the bloodiest battles of the Great War. Over 700,000 casualties. Battle became a strong symbol for French resistance, along with the words "On ne passe pas." One does not pass, otherwise they shall not pass. Oh, what a great fucking song. Like, a really great fucking song. They shall not pass. Hell yeah. So good. Fuck it. Let's hop straight into the history portion now.
The Battle of Verdun was the longest battle of the First World War, lasting over 300 days, and yet the attacking German army was unable to break through that symbol of French national pride.
And our song Fields of Verdun from our upcoming album, The Great War, is about that battle and the French slogan of courage, they shall not pass.
I'm Indy Nidell.
And I'm Joachim from Sabaton, and this is Sabaton History.
Now he's going to tell you a little bit about the song and the album, but I'm going to give you a little Verdun history lesson.
In late 1915, German Army Chief of Staff Erich von Falkenhayn was looking up and down the map of the Western Front. It had been more than a year since the stalemate and trench warfare had begun there. This is during the First World War. The home front was already suffering under the naval blockade, and he feared a war of attrition.
Oh, this is 10. The way they were introducing it made me think that this might have been like the first one.
That the German Empire could only lose. He needed to go on the offensive. To Falkenhayn, the weakest point of the Western Front was the British sector, and attacking at Artois could, he believed, lead to a decisive breakthrough that would collapse the whole Western Front. But he'd learned the hard way that without eliminating or at least tying down the French beforehand, the defense would be too strong. So, to deliver the blow in the north, he would attack at a place further south that would draw in as many French forces as possible. It must be a place the enemy could not afford to lose for strategic or propagandistic purposes, and would thus fight until wiped out. Such a place was Verdun. Verdun was not Falkenhayn's first choice, since it was a heavily fortified area. But it was also a commanding location. By capturing the heights east of the River Meuse and loading them with artillery, the Germans could constantly threaten the city and the local defenses, forcing the French to continuously attack the German defenses. The French would be tied down, and if they lost badly, the British would be forced to intervene. In the best case, they would hastily execute an offensive at the Somme, suffer heavy casualties as well, and open themselves up for a decisive German counterattack. Falkenhayn concluded that if Verdun was successful, there would be peace before the summer of 1916.
But as we all know, there wasn't.
Artillery. Total destruction, then attack battalions and pioneers storming the hills in a wedge toward the mighty fortress of Douaumont, taking the remnants of the other fortresses that were surely destroyed by the heavy bombardment.
Surely.
Preparations were made over the winter, massing artillery pieces of all calibers and millions of shells. The attack was planned for February once the weather cleared. On the 21st of February, the bad weather finally cleared, and German aircraft and observation balloons hit the skies. At 7:12 a.m. came the order to attack. The largest concentration of guns in history to this point opened up in a violent concert, described by witnesses as the Symphony of the Devil. Even in the Vosges near the Swiss border could be heard the thunder of the German guns. In an intensity never seen before, the barrage destroyed whole forests, blowing trees meters high into the air and raining stones and earth on the poor souls on the ground. Some soldiers were simply obliterated, torn apart by the force of the guns. Others were buried alive deep in their trenches or bunkers. Then the German combat troops emerged from the saps with grenades, wire cutters, and flamethrowers.
I stand by, like, he's talking about the forest being gone. that is still just such an insane visual to me of seeing like before and afters of certain areas of the Great War of a full forest just gone and just sticks of what looks like just like trunks sticking up out of the fucking ground is an insane just visual.
With the advantage of surprise, they stormed the first French lines. Through ice, rain, and snow, the soldiers fought as rifle shots and grenades burst in their midst. Trench after trench, the Germans gained a foothold, despite fierce resistance from well-camouflaged French machine guns and blockhouses. Thing is, for French Army Chief of Staff Joseph Joffre, Verdun wasn't that important, at least militarily. If the Germans could not be held on the east bank of the Meuse, the French would retreat and build new positions on the western bank. This was what Falkenhayn feared. But Aristide Briand made it perfectly clear that losing Verdun was not acceptable. Not only would the psychological effect be disastrous for the French public, it would undermine trust in the current government. And if Briand lost his job, so would Joffre. So giving up Verdun was out of the question.
Fucking insane.
This is exactly what Falkenhayn had hoped for. However, though the Germans advanced the first weeks, it was not nearly as far as Falkenhayn had calculated, and the French had brought in reserves and Philippe Pétain to lead the men. The most important heights were still far away and under French control, and taking the fortress of Douaumont was the key to those heights. Unlike the big fortresses in Belgium that had quickly fallen to modern heavy artillery at the beginning of the war, the French had used a stronger special concrete for Douaumont that just would not break. And the fortress soon seemed like an island in an ocean of fire and shrapnel.
Is this a Battlefield 1 map? This is very reminiscent of... I don't even remember what the fucking map was called, but this seems like a fucking Battlefield 1 map.
Small platoons of German soldiers that crept towards the fortress in early March found that it was actually mostly empty. And the strongest fortress of Europe was thus taken by a German officer with a pistol and a lot of guts. Fort Douaumont is for many the symbol of the Battle of Verdun. The Germans celebrated its fall,
had to have been a
Douaumont
BF1
was
map.
a trap for the men inside. Every direct artillery hit put out the lights, and the men cowered in darkness for days, living in their own waste, sharing their food with rats and lice, while the stench of the dead and the screams of the wounded haunted the long corridors.
Yeah, why would you want to stay there
But
then?
you know, this was actually still better than soldiers outside the fortress walls had to endure in the meat grinder that was Verdun. The French...
God, a shitty situation like that is considered better than the fucking actually outside is. That is grim. That is grim as fuck.
Just had one supply road out of range of German artillery. Only trucks for military purposes were allowed to use that road, and soon over 3,000 trucks a day were bringing men, ammunition, and supplies up the road. If one broke down, it was simply pushed off the road, which became known as the Voie Sacrée, the Holy Road. The German offensive began to drastically lose speed. The whole area of Verdun had become a maze of trenches and shell holes where death was always near. I mean that literally. This is only an area of 30 square kilometers, and the death toll grew to the hundreds of thousands. The name Verdun became synonymous with the mechanized death of the First World War.
That is
But it
insane.
really bound the French together. Pétain had ordered a new rotation system where no soldier was supposed to stay longer than 10 days in the front lines before being rotated out. This meant most soldiers in the French army had gone through Verdun.
Yeah, but he kept
By
most
April,
of them
the lack
fresh,
of
I
progress
guess.
was turning the whole idea of the Battle of Verdun into a farce. The more reserves Falkenhayn committed to the operation, the fewer he had ready for the real attack against the British. So Falkenhayn had to choose: stop the offensive and defend the gains that were made, or keep going with the offensive but with all available forces. Half measures were now unacceptable.
Yeah, the gambit was
He
kind
would
of
keep up the offensive. As
useless
June
at that
arrives,
point.
Falkenhayn officially declares bleeding dry as the main aim of the offensive. But bad news now also arrives. Russian General Alexei Brusilov launches his offensive on the Eastern Front. It is a spectacular success, and Germany's ally, Austria-Hungary, might be knocked out of the war. German reinforcements bound for Verdun must instead head east immediately. And more bad news, the French now have air superiority in the west thanks to the new Newport 11 planes and air-to-air Lancier rockets. Time seems to be running out for a German victory at Verdun. Falkenhayn launches what he hopes is the final attack towards Fort Vaux and the heights around the village of Fleury. On the 7th of June, Fort Vaux falls. A victory for the Germans for sure. But is this the turning point at Verdun?
At this point?
Not quite, for Fort Souville still stands in the way of victory, and this the Germans cannot take. June marks the limit of their advance at Verdun. On June 23rd, French General Robert Nivelle gives his famous order, "Vous ne les laisserez pas passer, mes camarades," which was later shortened to, "Ils ne passeront pas." They will not pass, and indeed, they do not. The French hold out in June, and on July the 1st, the British relief attack begins at the Somme. The pressure there forces German reserves away from Verdun to the north. With the Russians still advancing in the east, there are no options for Falkenhayn available. He must dig in at Verdun, as the three largest battles in history to this point all rage simultaneously. But by August, Pétain has a 7-to-1 advantage in artillery, and the German positions are pounded day and night. And as if things aren't bad enough, Romania joins the Allies. A new front and hundreds of thousands of new enemies emerge overnight for the Germans. Falkenhayn has lost the confidence of his Kaiser and then loses his job. Paul von Hindenburg and Erich Ludendorff take over running the German army. That, of course, does not mean that the battle is simply over, but it is France's turn to attack. Pétain brings in two 40-centimeter caliber railway guns to fire 900-kilo shells. That's around a ton each on Fort Douaumont, which finally cracks. 8 months after its fall,
that overhead
the French
photo is
retake the fort
insane.
in early November, and their counterattack is relentless. What the Germans captured over months of fighting, the French now retake in mere hours. By the end of 1916, the front lines are nearly back where they were in February. For a few kilometers of land, hundreds of thousands of men have died.
That's depressing as shit.
The Battle of Verdun lasted 303 days and nights. Estimates of the total casualties run as high as 1 million men, though it was likely closer to 700,000. But still, it was the longest battle of the First World War. And for many of the war's soldiers, it was the epitome of brutal, mechanized modern war. Many veterans would later remember Verdun by its smell, the mixture of gas, bodies that lay for months unburied, and the mass graves that were churned up by artillery fire. Corpses that laid for months in the dead zones of no man's land were mummified, the faces frozen in their final expression before death. The soldiers advancing into the forward trenches often had to stomp over the corpses and body parts of their dead comrades. Only the flies and rats thrived at Verdun in 1916. Before Joachim talks about the song, I would like to spoil the moment with a side note.
Okay.
It has been accepted history for a century that Falkenhayn's intention was to bleed France dry at Verdun, but this may not be the case.
Oh, really?
Falkenhayn claimed that this was his plan from the get-go, and he wrote about it in his 1915 Christmas memorandum to the Kaiser. However, the Kaiser never mentions such a memorandum, and there's no actual evidence that it ever existed. Falkenhayn may well have made all of this up as an excuse after the fact to explain away his failure. I did a whole episode about the Falkenhayn controversy on the Great War channel. The link is in the description. And now, back to Sabaton.
No, I could see that.
Okay, so new album, bunch of new songs. Now, how was it writing Fields of Verdun specifically?
Oh, to be honest, that was one of the harder ones.
Yeah?
It goes hard, I'll tell you that.
From which angle to cover it. I mean, we were stuck in a mountain of information, but then we just thought, well, let's just start and see where all this info that we have now read takes us. And that actually started to work out, you know.
Now, this album, The Great War, all of the songs have to do with the First World War.
Yes, yes.
But is it a concept album like Tommy, where you have to follow a story? Or?
Oh, yes and no. Let's say it's got a red thread you got to follow or something.
Okay.
All events covered on the album
Yeah.
happened during the Great War.
Yeah.
But they're not chronological ordered.
Okay, so it's a Great War theme without being the Great War concept.
Yeah.
Like if Julio Iglesias and he does an album, and you know all the songs are about love, so he's got a theme.
Exactly.
He's
Yeah,
got
it's a themed
on
album.
His album.
Well, that's a good name for it, a themed album, because it's not a true concept where we follow it from the beginning to the end.
Because of this particular part of that
I
theme,
mean,
album, you're going to be doing a few things in Verdun.
I would think that that's already a fucking thing, but maybe it was. Maybe it was. Maybe it wasn't. Who knows?
On this spring and summer, yeah?
Yes, but you weren't supposed to say that because that's a secret. You never heard that shit.
You never heard that. We could cut it out if you really want.
No,
but-
never.
Oh, never.
You never heard that shit.
Yes, this is wow, we're going live.
Yeah.
Hi, Mom. For now, here's a few seconds of some of this unreleased music from the song Fields of Verdun from the album The Great War.
Fields of execution turn to wasteland from the grass.
Already listened to it, but it's great.
It was said they shall not pass.
And that's it for today.
But we'll see you next time and every time on Sabaton History.
So fucking good. All right, I know that there's technically a Fields of Verdun 2, but that's not necessarily a part 2. It's more digging into like the weaponry and whatnot during it. Not necessarily full on about the battle per se. And I mean, this is 10. The part 2 or 2 is 67 of Sabaton History. So, unpopular, I'm going to skip it. If y'all really want to see it, I'll come back to it. But for now, I think I'm going to skip it. Either way, go check out the originals. They're linked below. Like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, you guys take care of yourselves. See ya.